Good afternoon, everybody. As you're coming into the session, we'll just wait for just a couple of seconds for folks to get in. All right, so welcome to our Partnering for Success, Maximizing Your Experience with SCORE and Beyond. I am Nikki Powis with the National Disability Institute. Just a few quick reminders. Captions can be accessed by clicking that CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you would like captions through stream text in English or Spanish, you can click the link that is appearing in the chat box. Your ASL interpretation has been arranged for all the sessions. So the two interpreters will alternate throughout the session. If you have any questions for the presenters, please put those in the Q&A box. The chat box tends to get kind of busy. So keep them in the Q&A so we can see them and we are able to make sure that we get to your questions if we have time. Reminder, the slides for this session and every session that you are going to, or even if you didn't go to it, are available for download on the live events page on the website near each session. They will be there and available for you. All right, so now I am delighted to introduce Lorinda Gonzalez-Santana. She is the owner of Remy's Consulting. Lorinda specializes in grant writing and nonprofit consulting. And in this session, she's going to provide us insights on how to make the most of your relationship with SCORE and other agencies like Vocational Rehabilitation and others to create a really strong integrated support system for your business. So Lorinda, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. And I'm so excited to have you all here. So really today is going to be I have about 10 slides, so it's not a very long presentation, but I just want to give you some ideas on best practices and ways that you're able to network and communicate with whether it's a SCORE mentor, a vocational rehab mentor, or someone else. Those of us that are on the entrepreneurship journey, we learn that, just whether you have a disability or if you don't have a disability, really partnering with your community, with mentors, this is what really helps get us far. I'll share a little bit about my own entrepreneurship journey and how I've been able to work with SCORE, with VR, and other organizations as well. That's really led me to a place where I'm very, very happy and very satisfied with my work. So I hope that some of this information will be useful to you and really help you feel empowered so that whenever you are in a place where you are navigating or communicating with a mentor of sorts, that you know the best way to prepare yourselves and the best way to make the most out of that working relationship. So let's get going. So welcome and purpose. So again, Lorinda Santana, I appreciate the info on my background, just so we have a little bit of an idea of where I come from. I actually have been an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old. I'm 40 now, so a little bit over 20 years at this point. I did not come from a background of entrepreneurs or of business owners. My family, most of them are teachers or federal employees, but I did not have any entrepreneurs or business owners in my life. So I had to kind of learn how to become a business owner on my own. And the real way that I was able to do so and that I was able to get to the space of learning for myself how whether or not I wanted to have regular gainful employment or if I actually wanted to have my own business was from a lot of connections I made with other individuals. So I hope to share some of that with you today. We are going to talk a little bit more about how SCORE specifically can support your entrepreneurial journey. They are a fantastic resource, just as is NDI. So I want to give you a little bit of insight as to how they work and what you can do to maximize those opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about the concept of the entrepreneurial journey and how having outside of support is really going to help you and help guide your path moving forward. I also would love to share a couple of tips and tricks for entrepreneurs with disabilities to hopefully lighten your path a little bit moving forward. And then to talk just a bit more about ways that mentors, in case we happen to have anybody on the call that is a mentor or have anybody on the call with SCORE or even with Voc Rehab, how you can also support entrepreneurs with disabilities. We'll go to the next slide. The entrepreneurial journey, and just give a moment here for us to process the information. So being an entrepreneur is a valuable option for people with disabilities. There's certain circumstances where a lot of, there's two options. People can go through regular employment, or a person can become an entrepreneur, which, could be self-employed. There's different ways to look at it, but it's really important, I think, to understand that being an entrepreneur is a fantastic option for many people with disabilities. It gives those of us with disabilities flexibility that's typically not found in a 9 to 5. My personal story is I have a mobility disability. I have a type of muscular dystrophy called spinal muscular atrophy. And for me, I have to deal with fatigue, and I also have to deal with needing assistance for ADL. So using the restroom, eating, things like this. So I had originally, when I was very young, was like right out of high school. I did have a couple of jobs that were more 9 to 5. And for me, it was very difficult. Fatigue wise, I wasn't able to keep up with the work, needing help using the restroom and things like that. It became complex for me. And that's when I realized that for me, entrepreneurship was going to be a great path for me. And again, like I mentioned before, I didn't really have anybody in my life who could show me how to do that. But through connections with the community, with SCORE, and other organizations, I was able to lead, to get towards that path. So when it comes to entrepreneurship specifically, there are many individuals with disabilities that find that entrepreneurship really is a fantastic opportunity and allows us to be super productive and really contribute in a way that makes us feel good about our work. However, when you're making the decision to be an entrepreneur, sometimes it can be difficult, especially if you don't have any support on your journey. A little bit of a story that I can share with you is that when I first started, I had graduated with my associate's degree and then went to the university for my 4 year degree. And I was actually in business school at Florida Atlantic University here in South Florida. And I remember in my studies, I started to learn a little bit about entrepreneurship. And I actually went to my professors and said, hey, I think I want to be an entrepreneur. What should I do? What's the next steps? And ironically, they did not support the idea, and they instead supported the idea of me being an employee. And so, even sometimes within your traditional modes of study, you may not get the guidance that you need in order to become an entrepreneur or understand entrepreneurship. And this is where SCORE comes in, and they came in with, as far as my story, to really help me on that path. So it can be sometimes difficult to make that decision if you don't have some kind of support or feedback to help you make that decision. But when you do decide you want to be an entrepreneur, it typically is, number one, fueled by passion. So there's something that you want to do in the community. There's some area that you're very interested in. Maybe you have an idea that's a little bit different or outside the box. That might be a good idea, a good guiding light that you want to be an entrepreneur. It's strengthened definitely by support from family, could be friends, could be your school, could be SCORE, NDI, a lot of different organizations that are out there that really support entrepreneurs towards their path. So that's another thing that can kind of help you make that decision. And it can be sustained through the concept of community. So even as I've been an entrepreneur now for, I think it's almost 21 years at this point, I still seek mentorship from SCORE. I still participate in any opportunity I can. Like this work we do with NDI, really to get this information out there and to have that sense of community, because being able to, knowing that you're not alone in this process really is going to help you make this a long term success for you if it's what you choose. So next slide, my journey from support, from what does it say? From support to self-sufficiency. Let me just move this over. So, as an entrepreneur with a disability, I learned early on how important it is to have that right support, right? So, for me, what I was able to do was I connected with Vocational Rehab, who gave me access to resources. I know a lot of individuals don't always have the best experiences with Voc Rehab. We were actually just on a conversation earlier today with Voc Rehab that's actually doing some great work, and I believe it was Delaware and Vermont. Certainly, Voc Rehab still needs a little bit of time to develop in other states, but the great thing is they are moving forward and they are starting to support entrepreneurship as a legitimate mode towards self-sufficiency. So that's fantastic. And vocational rehab really does give access to resources that an entrepreneur with a disability needs in the beginning. It could be financial support. So, for example, for me, they purchased in the beginning a modified desk that I could use to work at. They purchased my entire computer system, so I used the Apple ecosystem. They had made that original purchase for me, which was great. They had also paid for like a Hoyer lift system. So I was able to use the restroom and things like that quickly and easier at home. And they helped me with a build out of the home office. So there's a lot of different ways the Voc Rehab can provide access to resources, and learning how to navigate that and how to communicate with them along with others like SCORE is really important. Then secondly, what really gave me confidence was working with SCORE. So as I mentioned before that I was a business student, I was in my third year of college. I was doing my bachelor's degree, taking these business classes, wanting to be an entrepreneur, but I got no support from the professors. So I started doing my own research as a good student to see what else was available, and that's what I learned about SCORE specifically. And SCORE is just such a great organization. I'll go through who they are a little bit more in the next slide. But learning about SCORE and what I did was I actually took a bus 2 hours away from where I lived to attend a workshop, a free workshop that they had. And that was totally life changing for me because I learned some of the basics of what it is to be an entrepreneur, how to open a business, run a business, things like this. And it just really helped to catapult me to another space and helped me receive that confidence and future mentorship, which to this day, 20 something years later, I still do receive from SCORE. And then thirdly, my education really gave me an opportunity to learn from the best and encouraged me to be in professional places where my voice would be heard. So for me specifically, not just Voc Rehab, but also SCORE, and then also the opportunities I had with my education really helped me move forward. And again, 20 years later, I'm still in business. So the magic worked. So we'll go to the next slide for a second. We can take a peek at this. So how to make the most of SCORE. So SCORE, just so we have an idea of who SCORE is, right? They were funded by the Small Business Administration, and they are a volunteer service that's available in the entire United States. And they provide mentors to help business owners or people who want to open businesses with anything you can imagine related to your business. So there's a matching program. You go into their website, you fill out an online form, they match you with a mentor. And the mentors are either individuals who have been in business for many years and they're wanting to give back, or now there's even more mentors that are currently working in their fields and they still have that heart to give back. This is a completely free service and such a fantastic way to understand the inner operations of business and get perspectives that otherwise you may not have. So for me, for example, since I don't have family members who have ever owned businesses, that's not something that's been in my family. I didn't have anybody that I could lean on or that could give me that personal experience, or share even how it is to run a business. What does that look like? And I was able to get that from SCORE. And so early on, my first counselor, his name was Jerry, famous Jerry. He was incredible because he really was a person that just came in, understood that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and more importantly, helped to challenge me to grow, to start putting my ideas on paper and be able to develop my first business. So I've actually had three different companies. My first one was called Distinctive Writing, and it was an editorial firm. So we did editorial work. And so when you're working with SCORE and you're working with your mentor, what I really encourage you to do is number one, to be open to feedback and understand that the mentors are humans as well. And that two-way communication is absolutely essential for positive progress, especially when we have a disability. It's important for us to understand that some of these SCORE mentors may not know anything about our disability. They may not know anything about our needs. They may not have had a lot of training. So when the two counselors I've had, which was Jerry before and Ricardo, who I have now, they did not know anything related to disability and even less about mine. But because I came in with open communication, with a positive attitude, and I really, on their ends, they were very open to communicating with me, we really learned together. And so I received not only that business mentorship from them, but they received from me some guidance and some openness on what it is to work with a person with a disability. So it really became a learning process on both sides. So one of my first tips that I would share with you is that if you do get a mentor, understand that they may not know anything about your disability, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be a great mentor. So long as there's respect and open communication, you can really create a great partnership and move forward and go far. Another thing I would mention when it comes to score volunteers and mentors specifically, sometimes people don't like who they're matched with. And if that has happened to you in the past or if it happens to you in the future, don't worry about it. Reach out to them and just ask for another match. They have lots and lots and lots of volunteers, lots of mentors. Sometimes the first match isn't the best, but that doesn't mean that you can't get another one. I personally have had, like I mentioned before, two counselors the for two mentors. The first one was really good at helping me in my initial stages of the business, understanding what a business was, how to open a company, how to get my ideas on paper, market research, all of those initial stages was great. But then when I went through a transition and actually had moved to a different location in Florida, I got into more of the scalability. So now instead of under, the beginning parts of a business, I needed someone to support me in scaling my business and growing my business, in having a business that was in a larger city. Because before I lived in like a really small town, now I live in big old Miami. So I ended up changing counselors or changing, I keep saying counselors, changing mentors, and my new mentor really helps me where I'm at now, which has to do more with scaling and really getting into the market in the area. So don't be afraid that if you happen to have a mentor and they're not a great fit, or if they don't necessarily have the information that you need, because each one of them has their own experience, each one of them has their own areas of specialty. And if you don't have a good fit, not a problem. You can always find someone else. There's plenty of wonderful people that do work with SCORE. And as I mentioned before, you may not have the same mentor your entire time. You know, based on all our individual strengths, weaknesses, based on what you need at the time, you may switch people. I've spent, again, over the past 20 years, I've only had two mentors, so I've been pretty consistent. But I do like that you are able to, have other people on board or match with a different person should you need to. Sometimes when I've also had very specific needs or specific situations coming up, sometimes they'll bring in another mentor that can maybe support that. So they're really, really a great organization. And again, they do this from the heart. It's a volunteer base. They don't get compensated for this. They do this to give back. So I would definitely say again, the positive and progressive communication. Make sure you're always working together, communicating, and doing the things that they ask you to do is really important. I remember my first counselor really gave me a lot of homework in the beginning. Do your business plan, do your cash flow, and all these things. I had no idea what it was. But by doing that homework, it really helped me mold my business. And now, again, many years later, I still go back to those first lessons that I was taught. Another thing I would mention to you too is keep your mentor updated. That's an area where right now I'm in a growth space in that I only meet with my mentor maybe every 3 months. I used to meet with them every month because I'm in a different level of business at this point. But it's always great to keep them updated because as things change, as the market changes, your business is going to change as well. And it's great to keep them updated. That way they can continue to support you wherever you are. So then I want to switch a little bit to vocational rehabilitation because you can really have a fantastic duo here. You could even say trio if we include NDI here. If you can get support from SCORE, from vocational rehab, and we all know that we're all being supported now so tremendously well through NDI, you can get a lot done. You can really move forward with your business. So when it comes to vocational rehab specifically, as we talked about before, their goal is to help a person with a disability achieve employment. So that can either be typical regular employment, like wage employment, or it could be self-employment. Different states are a little bit better at this. Other ones need a little bit of work, but that is what they exist for, is really to help us acquire gainful employment. So I have here mentioned a couple of things where they could help, which is that financial assistance, educational assistance, and something that's really important for us to understand when working with VR is the importance of self-advocacy, right? And being able to really advocate for what it is that we need, advocate for what it is that we want to do with our lives as far as our employment goes, and really come to the conversation prepared. So when you are meeting with a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and again, there's some that are fantastic, other ones are a little bit more difficult. But I think a tip that I can share with you is if you do want to be self-employed, if that is something you want to do, start investigating a little bit as far as what are your strengths? What are your interests? Right? What type of business are you thinking about doing? Do a little bit of market research, right? I want you to look and see what other businesses are offering something similar to yours. For example, let's say you want to open a cafe. I'm a big time coffee drinker, all about the new cafes. But there are a lot of cafes in my area, right? So I want you to go and start looking at the other cafes that are in your area. What are they doing different maybe than the way you're doing it? Do a little bit of that market research so that way when you come to your counselor and you say to them, hey, I've decided that I want to pursue self-employment. This is what I want to do. I want to open a cafe, and here's the market research that I've done. That's really going to help move the conversation forward and help them understand that you're not just in what they would say the dreaming stage, which is you just want to be an entrepreneur, but you've really thought about it and you've dug deep into it and you know this is something you want to pursue. That's something that's really going to help you, I would say, with any kind of partner you may have, any kind of mentor you may have, is try to do as much research and work on your own. So that way, by the time you get to them, you can share some information on what you've already done, and they can help you from that place moving forward. Another thing that I think is important when you're talking to VR is being open and honest about your future and your desire to be an entrepreneur. For me, that was a challenge that I had to go through. They were not always so accepting of that idea, but I knew in my heart, just deeply inside, that that was what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly what that looked like, and it was definitely things I had to work through to get there. But I knew that's what I wanted to do, and so communicating that in the best way possible is what really helped me move forward. So whatever way you're able to share information, again, do your own research. It's going to help when you have those conversations to help justify why you want to do this, especially if you're in a state where they may not be as open to it as others, which we know they're growing. And again, because of the great work NDI is doing, we're seeing that there's a lot of fantastic shifts with VR. But really, doing your part is going to be very, very important. So if you happen to be a vocational rehabilitation counselor on the call today, or if you work with individuals with disabilities in the mentorship role, just a couple of things that I think is really going to just help the conversation go two ways. Number one, I believe anybody that's supporting entrepreneurs or supporting individuals with disabilities in the space of employment really should educate themselves on entrepreneurship and how a successful path towards true gainful employment can either be entrepreneurship or it can be a regular wage job. Like there's more than one way that a person can be financially stable, and entrepreneurship is one of those. So I think educating ourselves on both sides is really important. I think number two, understanding your client's unique challenges. Every disability has its own unique challenges. We have our unique strengths. We're all a little different. So it's really important to not judge people based on your concept of quality of work. It's really important to understand what the person is passionate about, where their talents lie, how the disability affects them. And so you can together come up with a plan to move them forward towards that gainful employment. Just because it's a 9 to 5 job does not mean that it's going to be more stable for that person versus entrepreneurship. If I was to have a 9 to 5 job, I know for a 1,000% fact I would not be sustainably, I wouldn't be able to sustain myself financially in comparison to being an entrepreneur. So for me, that wasn't the best option. So I think it's just really important to have that communication and really just understand each other and know that for some people, entrepreneurship is going to be a better route. Another tip I would say, if anybody is with VR specifically, VR sometimes has an idea that they're looking to close the case. That's like their kind of like the method that they have in place. Sometimes they want to get people gainfully employed. They want to close the case, and that's like a success for them, which is great. But we want to make sure that we're closing these cases when the person has been able to achieve um, living their life independently and achieving gainful employment and are satisfied with their work. So there's sometimes there's been situations where I've seen where they, just get somebody into a job. For example, with me, when I first started, they wanted me to be a typist, which doesn't make any sense because of my physical disability. I can't type. I have to actually use voice activation in order to, like a dragon program, in order to even to write. So, they just wanted to do that because it was something that was quick and easy. That's what we don't want. We want to make sure that we're understanding those that we're supporting, that we're really understanding where their strengths, their weaknesses are, really understanding where they want to go and what we can do to support them in becoming financially stable, which in this case could very well be entrepreneurship. So I love this slide, the power of mentorship. So mentorship, as you're thinking about it, whether you are a mentor or a mentee receiving mentorship, it's not about getting answers. It's about acquiring clarity and accountability. Score mentors are fantastic at this. They help, at least in my experience, they help me to clarify what it is that I want to do in my future, what it is I've wanted to do with my business, how I've wanted to grow. They've helped bring that clarity towards me on what the next steps are, whether that was transitioning from an LLC to a C Corp, whether that was doing my own taxes to finally getting a CPA, very different things that you go through in your business. A great mentor will help give you clarity, and they're going to help hold you accountable to make sure that you yourself are doing your part. The finances, and when it comes to like the accounting and all that, that was an area of growth for me that I struggled with for quite some time. Again, I didn't have any business owners in my family. I didn't receive that education outside of the classes I was taught in university. So I needed support in that space. And so they held me accountable. Did I do my taxes? Did I do my, do all your calculations, your month to month expenses? Did I do that? They help you to become accountable, which helps push you forward in your entrepreneurship journey. When you are working with a mentor, what I really encourage you to do is once you've created that bond and created that relationship with them and you feel comfortable, listen more, talk less, and be open to learn and do your homework. That is where I found the most success. Every time I'm on a mentorship call, it's a very humbling experience. I have to, I explain what my situation is, and I just, open myself up to be able to receive the information so that I can then move forward, whatever the way it is that you receive information best, right? It's important to really be open to learn and ready to do the homework. They're going to say, hey, I need you to do this, whatever it may be. Be prepared to do that. Being an entrepreneur, especially for a long period of time, means that you're going to have to adapt to change. So there's different things that you're going to have to do. Your business is going to evolve. Your services and products are going to change depending on the market, depending on what's needed. And your mentors can really be a guiding light to help you through that process. So I would definitely say make sure that you're open to receiving the information that they give you and be ready to do whatever homework they request of you to move you forward. So the best VR counselors, in my opinion, really care for their clients and seek to support them, right? Not just fill their quota. So they're there to really help them. And don't mind me, I just found a typo here. They really are there because they want to see this person become financially stable. They want to see this person have gainful employment. They want this person to have an equal chance, right? Because we know as people with disabilities, it's very difficult in the workplace for many of us. So the best counselors really are looking out for their clients, not just looking out to fill a quota. And the best score mentors really meet the clients where they are and spend time understanding their unique needs while at the same time pushing them to achieve success. So it's not just about listening to their business goals, it's about understanding their business goal, understanding their unique needs, understanding how their disability may or may not affect their business, and then pushing them to achieve different tasks, pushing them to complete different, I like to call it homework, right? And really helping guide them. And that's what I found that has really helped me with the mentorship opportunities is they help me grow and they help me become a better version of myself and a better entrepreneur. So then here on our last slide, building a support system. So everybody's support system looks different. And whether if you do have a disability or even if you don't have a disability, you need a support system to help you move forward. That can be a combination of family, friends, and community members. It can be other entrepreneurs. It can be a mix of SCORE mentors, VR counselors, peer networks, etc., etc. But having a support system and having individuals near you by your side to help you move forward in your business is essential. That can be attending networking events online like this one, which is fantastic, right? We've had this amazing 2-day convening where we've all learned so much information. This is already helping you move forward and building your support system towards entrepreneurship, or if you already have a business, building your business even more. Networking with SCORE, if that's your next step, is also a great idea to be able to connect with them. Find a mentor that can help you where you are and help you move forward and grow. They really are the insiders in a lot of ways. A lot of them have worked in a lot of different areas, locations in the United States, even internationally. They have so much experience. And many of them, especially the retired SCORE mentors, they may have had a 30, 40, 50-year career as a CEO, as a business owner, and they're bringing all that knowledge and wisdom to the table. So it's definitely an amazing opportunity. And like I said, when you're building a support system, it's going to look different for everybody. All entrepreneurs need a support system, not just those of us with disabilities, because that really is what's going to help us pivot, help us grow, and help us establish our businesses so that we can be successful moving forward. Here's some of my information, and I am going to stop sharing screen so we can get to some questions.
Thanks, Lorinda. That was just wonderful to hear all about your journey and the great experiences that you've had with those supports. And love how you really sort of put it out there almost in checklist form about what it is that folks need to do to make sure that they can get the most out of those relationships. Okay, so a couple of questions. Jason says SCORE offers more than just mentoring. Mentors can recommend CPAs, bookkeepers, and other important people who can help your business and are the best fit for your business. I.e., accounting with government construction is different from just providing consulting services.
Mhm.
Did you get to find the right people through your SCORE mentor? So I guess you've had two wonderful mentors, it sounds like, but did
Mhm.
they also help you connect to other things that you needed specifically for your business?
So fantastic question, and absolutely they did. So I'll give you the example of the accounting because that was an area where for me it was very difficult to understand that I was at a space where I needed to have someone step in to do the accounting and also relinquish that because for me it was very scary to relinquish the financial part of my business. And absolutely, my SCORE mentor encouraged me, supported me through that decision, and it wasn't easy for me to make that decision originally, and he actually helped me develop. He helped me look into see number one, what was I able to afford? Did I want to hire a CPA or a bookkeeper? Did I want somebody part time? Did I want a contractor? What matched where I was? And then he actually helped me develop a job ad so that I could go out there and find a person. And I ended up finding a fantastic person. His name was Jacob. He was with me for 2 years, and my business literally tripled in income because of the financial control that I was able to bring in. So that's something that probably one of the biggest areas where I received support. And just as the person had mentioned, it wasn't SCORE that gave me that bookkeeper or gave me that CPA. He ended up being a CPA. He graduated after he worked with me, but they did help me understand that I needed it, and they helped me understand what I needed so that I could then find the right person.
That sounds really, really helpful.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned several times if you're not happy with that SCORE match, there's no shame in trying to get another one, or maybe that person isn't able to provide the information for where your business is at that moment.
Mhm.
So someone is saying that their first SCORE match was not appropriate.
Mhm.
And they're wondering if there is a specific contact or how do they reach out at SCORE to really find that better mentor to assist with the business.
I would say what I would do in that circumstance is number one, define what worked and what didn't, and try to define even on paper what it is that was missing. Did you need somebody that's better at marketing or maybe more available, whatever that is for you specifically. And then I would just write that up and send an email to your local chapter Usually you can go to the local chapter's website directly. So you can go to score.org, I believe it is, find the local chapter, and then send that email to them. Obviously, keep it in a positive way, right? But to say, listen, this mentor I have is not meeting my needs. I need somebody that can help me with, and be very directly communicative in what you need, fearlessly, and then from there they can start to find somebody, and usually they're pretty quick and pretty good at that. I have seen, like I said, with me, I never had to switch counselors, but I did see that other people did, because for a very brief time I was a mentor myself. And so I saw the back end of things, and that would happen because they really want to make sure you have a good match. So I would go to your local chapter, fill out the form, but just be very specific on what didn't work and what you are looking for, so that way they know exactly who to match you with.
That reminds me, Lorinda, I remember when I was speaking with the National Score Office about,
Mhm.
relationships and how we can connect more with them. They had said that, they have thousands of mentors across the country, and like you mentioned, even internationally.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't even have to be a person that's local to you. It could be someone that's across the country, or,
Yeah.
and they really do try to find that expertise if you are clear on the type of help and support that you need.
Absolutely. And actually, it makes sense. One of the few people that I did mentor, she's in South Carolina. And I don't do the mentoring now, but we still keep in contact, and we're in different states.
Yeah, yeah. Someone in the chat actually said that they just went to the school website, signed up for a mentor, and it was very easy. And they got an auto reply stating that they would hear from someone within 48 hours. So there
Um,
you go.
there you go.
Someone already did it, right? Right from
Love
right
it.
now.
Proactive. That's the way to be. It's fantastic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so another one, several VR agencies use SCORE as small business entrepreneur vendors.
Mhm.
We're having experiences with SCORE not providing the final necessary letters for, I'm not sure what LRS means, but for LRS to approve, I guess that's the acronym for that particular agency,
Mm.
to approve business plans and distribute funds to the client. Any suggestions?
I would
So
say, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I do know that if it's coming from VR, the VR needs that documentation, don't they?
Mhm.
So,
Right.
yeah, suggestions on how that can help.
I would, yeah, yeah, I would say I would definitely contact, again, go back to your local chapter, dig in to see the who's who of the area. Um, and then try to find somebody local to get that going. And if not, then contact national, right? Because that's something that's very important. Sometimes it's difficult because, from what I recall, most of SCORE are volunteers, most of them are not paid employees. And so sometimes, and not that that justifies anything, but sometimes that delays things a little bit more. So I would just say I will always encourage people in the communication space to be as proactive as possible. So documentation is great, requesting things by email is great, and then feel free to CC and forward it to whoever the next person is, up there. But I would start with the local chapter and see if there's a contact you can find on the website, and if not, then just go to go a little bit higher up if you need to. But really documenting things. And also being deadline driven. Nikki knows I'm very deadline driven. So really having our deadlines, this is when we need it by, and just communicating, because it could just be an error, somebody didn't get to it. Not that that justifies it, but I think it'll help you get quicker responses.
Yeah, and again, going back to our conversations with National Score, they really were very proactive in
Mhm.
training for SCORE mentors, making sure that folks understood disability. Like you said, you had a great relationship where you were able to sort of coach each other in different
Mhm.
aspects.
Mhm.
But if yeah, I would say if necessary, go to the National Score Office because they seem to be very, very proactive in trying to make things work.
Mhm. Agreed.
So this is a little bit back to what you talked about before, but you were saying about how your mentor actually helped you find that bookkeeper, find that accountant. Are the mentors themselves able to help with bookkeeping? This person is just getting started and really can't afford that professional service at this time.
That's a great question. So what they will do is, if let's say you find, you have a mentor that's good at bookkeeping specifically, I've had sessions, mentorship sessions, where we pull up QuickBooks together and we look at some of the accounting together and they teach me some of the concepts. Or what they'll do is they'll recommend that you take one of their workshops. So for example, bookkeeping specifically, typically you would use QuickBooks, right? That seems to be the software that's like most recommended and the easiest to use. So they'll, let you know like, hey, there's this workshop you can take. There's a lot of workshops on their website that are free, and it's kind of like a self-study. So, or if you haven't, I've done this as well, where I started to get very granular with my projects and really attach certain expenses to certain projects so I could really see the true cost. And that to me was totally alien. I mean, I had no idea how any of that worked. And my SCORE mentor, we pulled up some sheets together and we worked on things together. So, did they do all of my bookkeeping? No, but they did give me the resources to access, like I said, the QuickBooks, the different workshops, and also to be able to understand things conceptually so that I was able to do it on my own up until the point where my business grew enough that I could then hire someone. So they helped with that transition.
Thanks. And back to sort of the VR piece of it too. If somebody is connected to Voc Rehab, oftentimes they will help you get some training in an area that is important for your business. And if that's using QuickBooks or learning how to
Mhm.
do bookkeeping and things like that. Someone actually just popped in the chat that they are a bookkeeper and they do find QuickBooks to be rather expensive compared to what many people need. So to look at some alternatives. Have you ever used any other alternatives that you can think of? Would you make any suggestions on that, Lorinda?
I'm trying to think what I used before. So before QuickBooks, I used Excel. Old school Excel spreadsheets. That's what I used. I switched to QuickBooks because of the reporting part of it was a little
Mhm.
bit easier, and there's like API connections so you can connect it with other systems. Definitely is a higher price point. It's not a cheap program, and there's others that are a little bit more expensive. I'm trying to think. I know there's one specifically that's a little bit lower cost. I would do FreshBooks. There we go. Thank you, Paola. FreshBooks. That's exactly the other one. And I think it's a much like lower price point, and I've had clients that use it and they like it. So there's also certain bank accounts that will have their own accounting software embedded, and also CRMs as well, just to kind of throw that out there. So I use one that's called HoneyBook. HoneyBook is a CRM because we manage a lot of contacts per year. And HoneyBook actually has its own accounting software built in, so I thought that was cool. Then there's another bank, it's called Mercury Bank. They're an online bank. It's a little bit different than a traditional bank, FDIC insured and all of that. But they also recently have rolled out some accounting software built into the bank as well. That's not an extra charge as far as I know. So those might be some options. FreshBooks is great. Check out Mercury Bank. And then also check out your CRMs, because some of them now also have some accounting add-ons kind of added. And if not, an old school Excel spreadsheet. I did that for about 10 years.
Someone also said in the chat they use something called Patriot.
Okay, Patreon, I'm gonna look into that one.
Yeah, yeah. And we also do work with someone that does bookkeeping. They have kind of a proprietary, there is a cost for that, but it's called Bankably. So I think it's fairly inexpensive, but you might check that out as well. Okay, all right. So someone else is made a comment that SCORE is not the only one providing mentoring. What about other entities like the Small Business Development Center, or if you are wanting procurement technical assistance for government contracts and things, then PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I think they changed their name, did they? I don't know. I have a
I feel
feeling that
like,
PTAC
yeah,
changed to something else.
I think they might have as well. SBDIC I'm familiar with as well. I've not used them myself, but I send clients to them, especially if they want to become, let's say, disability owned or minority owned or woman owned. You can go through them here locally. So I know they definitely do a lot in that space. A lot of the more technical stuff. I find the SCORE is a little bit more business operation type of led. Again, it depends on who your mentor is, but they help in what I've seen more on the business side of things, like how to concepts of marketing, concepts of scalability, things like that. And then SBDIC, I've seen they do a little bit more technical work. So that's great. The more resources we have to share, the better, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, we partner with places like Together International
Mhm.
and Synergy Works, and those are both accelerator incubator programs that are specifically for people with disabilities, and they cover a lot of this sort of type of content. They
Mhm.
also both offer a platform where disabled founders can connect with one another online. And I see a lot of that happening in the chat where people are like, hey, I want to connect. Here's my LinkedIn. And so if behind the scenes I can't multitask to do it as well, but if anybody can pop in Together International and Synergies into there, so they've got that connection information and also accelerator program because they do offer many of those things. There is a person in the chat that says if you need help getting started, they're happy to walk you through the beginnings to help. And I had mentioned Bankably, which is Taliba Bales, TMB Financial, and someone in the chat said that Bankably and Taliba is awesome. So there
Awesome.
you go. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with that, it looks like we only have a couple of minutes left anyway. Oh, someone said their local SBDC has been incredible. And we've had great experiences with SBDCs that we've partnered with as well. So definitely a good resource. Okay, so I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So I am going to give us a little bit of a sort of outro really quick with the last couple of minutes that we've got. So just remembering, please, to go into Lorinda's session and click on that feedback because we would love to hear about how how you have enjoyed the presentation. And then also a reminder that this is our final day. We're getting close to the end of the day. So if you're staying till the end or if you have to leave soon, we do have also an evaluation that covers the entire 2 days that we would absolutely love to hear from. We have been getting a lot of questions as well about how we get recordings. Some of the sessions, that are concurrent, you might want to go to both. You can only be in one. So I believe by Monday, the recordings will be up. So you'll sign back in as you did today, and then you'll have the option rather than joining now to see that recording. And also reminder, all of the information, the bios, the contact information for everybody that has been a presenter or a panelist is in there as well, as are all of the PowerPoints downloadable, accessible, everything for you. But as I said, that by Monday, the recordings will be there, so you can go check out the things that you wanted to get to that you missed. So there we go. Okay, the other thing is, again, you can visit those exhibitor booths. You can get back in and watch for the next 60 days. So take advantage of that. Everything's still free, 60 days. You can go and look at all those booths. All of our booths have incredible amounts of information. NDI's got lots of resources there. You can connect with us through that. We do provide support for small businesses, not financial. I will say that we don't have money to give
Mhm.
away, but we can help you connect. Um, and there's information on Social Security benefits and ABLE accounts and the Verizon Digital Ready, which is again another wonderful platform where there's some great videos and information and mentorship that you can get by signing up there. They also have grants for $10,000 that come out, I think, about every couple of months or so. And the last thing is I'm going to say is sponsors, if you want to click on those, we have resources as well that you can download, including a really comprehensive entrepreneurial guide to help you get started. And one more thing, quick plug for that small business credit survey that the Federal Reserve puts together. We have really worked with them to get disability questions in there so that we can have some feedback and hear your voices through that federal survey that goes out every year for small businesses. So if you haven't filled it out, again, it's one of the booths, and it does take, I think, 10, 15 minutes or so to do it, but we would love to get more representation if you can take a minute. It closes on the 14th of November. So, please let us know. Okay, all right. Well, lots of comments still in the chat. Thank you so much. We are going to end now. We will have a quick break before our next session. And as a reminder, you can't get into the next session until 2 minutes before. So you got a few minutes to take a break or go and check out those booths. And Lorinda, thank you so much again. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.